Hey guys, good morning. We're on our way to pick up some material. It's 0 Celsius out there this morning. I hope you guys are having a great day. Once we pick up the material and bring it back to the shop, I'll show you what I picked up and we'll get on to our next build. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. So I just got back from the supplier. Unfortunately, he didn't have my order ready. So I'm back at the shop. I did end up picking up the burners and I'll show you what they look like. Let me see if we can pull one out here. There we go. Okay. So this is the burners that I like to use. I've used different applications for these things. What's nice about these burners, okay, is that the mounting, okay, so it holds the elements from twisting. So if you're using a basic oven element, chances are it's going to twist. Hot, cold, eventually they break. This is keeps the element perfectly flush up against the oven, okay? Also the mounting bracket on the back and the mounting bracket at the bottom. So what we're going to do today is we're actually going to build the mounting brackets to mount these into the oven. So to actually mount this section to the oven. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the camera on a tripod, and underneath you'll see I got a sheet of 16 gauge hot roll. And what we'll do is we'll mark it up and I'll show you my measurements and we'll go from there. Okay, so I'll show you how I'm going to lay this out. So what I like to do is, of course, I always keep my extra pieces of sheet metal. So when I'm measuring this, we want to measure the width of the bottom of this base. And this width is 5 inches. So I'm going to make this width, I'm going to say about 5.5. That should be pretty good. Maybe we'll do 6 inches. Let's do 6 inches. So I'm going to draw this out. And we're going to do 6 inches here. Okay. So when I have this flat like this, flush, this is off the bottom is 2 inches. So we want to have a little bit of a lip. So I'm going to say 2 1/4. So this section here is 2 1/4. And 2 1/4. Okay, so that's the distance between the flush portion of the oven to the top of this. It's actually 2 inches. I'm giving it a 1/4 inch bigger, okay? And then we'll take it from there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to lay this out. I'll show you how I'm going to work and cut this. Let's get the quick cut out and we'll cut it. But this is pretty square as it is. It's a little rusty, but we'll clean her up. Let's move this out of the way for a second, and I'll show you how I'm going to do that. Okay, so we'll need a square. Let's grab a square. So if we're going to do 2 1/4, 6 inches, 2 1/4, I get my trusty coffee here. I'm not sure if this is square. Actually, it is. Okay, so that's great. So let's mark 2 1/4. Two and a quarter. Then we're going to go ahead and mark 6 inches. Then go ahead and mark 2 1/4. Then we'll throw a square off of that. Okay. So what we're going to need to do is when we bend this unit, we need a lip. So we're going to make it a little bigger. Okay, so let's refigure that out. So we got to make a lip. So we're going to do a 1/4 inch lip, 1/4 inch lip. So let's scrap that out for a second. Get a little bit of brake clean, we'll clean that right off. And we'll redo that again. Measure twice, cut once, guys. Okay, so let's try that again. So we're going to do 1/4 inch lip. Or maybe I can do, let's do 1/2 inch lip. 1/2 inch lip by 2 1/4 by 6 by 2 1/4 by 1/2 inch. Okay, so that should be pretty good. Let's mark this out and let's see. Of course, my Sharpie's acting up. All right, let me grab another Sharpie. Hold on. All right. Yeah, it's looking pretty good. Okay, and then 1/2 inch. Now I'll explain what that 1/2 inch is for. Let me do this 1/2 inch here. Okay, so now the girth, the thickness of the bottom section or the top of this, I'm only going to do probably, I'm going to say 4 inches, and I think that should be okay. So we need room in behind the element, number one, for the actual wiring. And then number two is we want to be able to, let me just mark this. We need room in behind that, okay, in order to make sure that the wire will clear. So we're just going to mark that. Okay, there we go. So now we've got the base of it. So this is the front, this is the side, and this is the lips that we're going to use to mount. Now we need a lip on the interior. So what we did here is 1/2 inch. We're going to do 1/2 inch there. And that should be good. So maybe we should do 1 inch. Let me measure that again. So what we got on this? So on this is we got 5 inches. So we need a 1/2 inch. 5 inches, 1/2 inch should do it. Okay, so let me mark 1/2 inch. Am I going to make it a little bit bigger? You know, guys, I'm going to do 1 inch. I'm going to do 1 inch. Let's do 1 inch. Let's make sure that we got it. Even if I have to cut it later, I can. I'm okay with that. 1 inch and 1 inch. There we go. Okay, so now we'll cut this out. What we're going to do is we're going to score this, okay, with the grinder and the death wheel. And then we'll cut out the edges, and then I'll show you how I'm going to go ahead about and do that. If I do 1 inch on each side, we should be pretty good. Okay, so let's grab our death wheel, move this stuff out of the way, and we'll score it. And then we'll try to bend her up, and then we'll get the welder ready. Okay, let me get the wheel out. Oh, where are we? Okay. Huh. There it is. Okay, guys. So I got my safety glasses on. I got my guide here. We're going to go ahead and score this. Okay. Get rid of my coffee because I want that for later. All right. So we'll score this side. Make sure we don't drop all that. Okay, so we're going to spin it around. We'll score this side. Cut that one out. Move that over. It's not too hot. Okay, so we got the one done. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy that one onto the next piece here. Like so. And just trace it out. Okay. Carry out that that line. We'll get the new marker here. Carry it out. Butterfingers. Okay. There we go. Okay. And then we're going to do our inch on top, which is the actual thickness of this square. Okay. There we go. And we'll get that one cut out. Let's move this out of the way. This one, I'll just dump it in here for now. Well, maybe not. All right, so let's score that first. There we go. And we'll cut the top. All right. So we'll move this out of the way for a second. There we go. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to cut relief cuts on this, this, and that. Okay, because I'll show you why. So well, you can see that I did some relief cuts there, okay? So now we're going to bend these. So the way I bend it is pretty simple. I just use the edge of the table, and I'll take it and just hold it and bend it, just like that. So what I'll do here is the same. Got to make sure that I'm somewhat where I need to be. Make sure I got it somewhat square. And now what we'll do is we'll bend this in. Somewhat square. Okay, so I'm going to bend that. I have a plier for that, if I can find it. There we go. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that right to the line where I scored it. You guys can see that. And just start to bend right at the line. Okay. Hope you guys can see that. Okay. Not bad. Okay. So what we're going to do now is we're going to do a relief cut here, and then bend that one down. So there's two options we could do. We can do it that way, or we can cut that, the other side. But what we'll do is we'll cut this side here. So I'm just going to take it. Okay, that one's good. Take this one and start to bend a bit. And bend this one out of the way. It's just a tad crooked. We'll fix that in a second. Yeah. There we go. Now these release pieces here, we'll just cut them off, and then we'll re-weld. But let me cut or weld those corners up. Okay, so now this end piece, we're going to bend the opposite way. And that's the piece we're going to mount on. Beautiful. What we're going to do is we'll get a plate and we'll just make sure we've got it nice and smooth. The last oven I made, I left these on there. I'm going to cut them off for this one. And then the bottom piece, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to just cut a plate and we'll weld it onto it. And that'll make that perfect. So let me cut this off. We're looking pretty good there, guys. Get rid of this piece of metal. Okay, so then what we'll do is we'll get the welder out and we'll tack weld that up together, and then I'll make the one for the bottom. Now what I'm trying to do is just make it as square as I can, and it's looking pretty good. So let's see if we can get the element or the burner to fit on there properly. Let's see. And we're good. We got room to screw it in, and it's perfect, guys. Flush to the bottom. What we want to see. Hang on. All right, so let me cut the other one, and we'll do the same thing, and then we'll cut out the bottom plate, and then we'll tack them together. And of course, we'll give it a nice cleanup before we decide to paint them. Okay, so let's cut this one. I'm hoping you guys are able to see all that. Awesome. All right, so let's see if that both look pretty much the same. Let's make sure that it fits that one. And I think it does. Absolutely perfect. Okay. So now what we want to do is we want to cut out the bottom plates. Now the bottom plate, I have a piece that's 14 gauge, a little thicker. And I'm going to cut it out for the bottom because I've got a piece of scrap. So what I'll do is I'll just trace out the bottom, cut them out, and then we'll weld this up and then clean up everything around the edges to make sure everything's nice and square. Let me get a little piece of that 14 gauge. It's right here. More or less. Now draw it out. They both should be pretty well the same. Make sure they're kind of square. Yeah, they're pretty well the same. Perfect. Put that there. And we'll cut that out, and that should do the bottom beautifully. All right, so let's cut this. That's good. And we'll weld that on there. And we'll weld that on there. And then I will smoothen everything out. Perfect, guys. All right, let's get that welder on. And let's tack these things up. They're looking pretty good. Okay, guys, I got that welder all set up. I got her turned down pretty low. I'm doing about 11 amps and speeds about 15 volts. I think that should be more than enough. I'm going to turn her down just a touch more. Down to 12. Let's try that. All right, let's get the grinder out and we'll grind these up. Then we'll take a look at my weld. So guys, I've got them all grinded down, all the welds grinded down. They came out pretty good. You know, when you're doing sheet metal, it's always a pain to weld, but it looks pretty good. So now what we're going to do with these things is going to give it a shot of high heat paint. And then there's an insulation that we're going to put in behind. And they'll be ready to mount in the oven. So let me get a cover for my table and we'll give these things a coat of paint. Okay guys, so we'll get our cover back on that table. Give these a coat of high heat paint. Oops. There we go. So then once this stuff dries pretty quick, and once it's dry, we'll flip it over and paint the inside. And then of course, before we mount these, we'll paint behind that spot. that it covers, okay? And then once we'll spray the oven after, and that'll cover everything up and match it all up. But looking pretty good. Okay, we'll give that a few minutes to dry. And that stuff dries pretty quick. And we'll flip them over and dry or paint the other side. And that's pretty well it. And then we'll line up one of the coils again, or one of the burners again, and take a look. So let's let that dry for about 5 minutes and we'll flip it over. So guys, we're almost dry. Give it a nice coat. We'll wait for this to dry. And then we'll flip her over. But they look pretty good. Not bad at all. So guys, the paint dried. Units look really good. I got coat done on the inside. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab the burners and I'll show you exactly how that is going to look with them sitting in there. I'll do one that's sitting this way and one sitting upside down so you guys can see it. It came out pretty good. So of course here is where they're going to mount. So we'll pre-drill some holes here. Okay, so we can screw that onto the oven. But they're looking pretty good. So let me take this stuff off the bench and then I'll get the burners and I'll show you. There you go, guys. So that's what they look like. You can see how they sit up against there, okay? And then of course we've got the mount on the top. Now this is what the back side would look like. Okay, so that would be mounted like so. There's lots of room in there for wiring. What we'll do is we'll have insulation in here also just to protect the wiring. And of course, when I do the wiring, I've always fiberglass shield it. So that will definitely do. So guys, I really appreciate you watching. I hope you enjoyed this segment. We will continue to work on this oven. I'm gonna try to keep the videos not too long. This way, keep you guys waiting for the next. But I hope you liked it. I really appreciate it. Please subscribe. It helps me out tremendously. The next video, I think what I will be doing is going to be doing like a question and answer segment. I've been getting a lot of questions on the oven builds. I do answer most of, if not all, the questions, but I think I'm going to make a video on it just to go over a bunch of stuff. I'm going to try to keep this video as detailed as possible with wiring and assembly and what material I actually used to put the ovens together. Guys, again, thank you for watching. Please subscribe.